Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to be bringing to you a friend of mine. He's what I'm going to call a hometown hero. We're both here from Baton Rouge. I've got Levar Robinson here with us. Levar, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
And you've got a very important topic. I think I shared with you that my single mama raised 5 kids by herself. And we know daddies in homes is a big deal. And being a father comes with a lot of responsibility. And you are a father on a mission.
Yes.
So tell me how you started FOAM, Fathers on a Mission, and why you did that, because I think that's a very important part of your story.
Yes, definitely. I definitely appreciate it, Beth, for having me on. So, born and raised here in Baton Rouge. I hadn't lived here in 13 years, and I moved back. I did 6 years in the nuclear submarine program, worked for a different couple of Fortune 500 companies. I moved back, and one thing that I wanted to do was help you make sure they didn't do a lot of the mistakes that I've made in life, right? Even though I had some very successful opportunities, but there's still some mistakes I made that I would rather kids not make. And so I started volunteering, mentoring in church, working with Sunday school and youth Bible study and things like that. But then I also seen that, hey, what about those kids who don't come to church? What about those kids outside of the church, right? So I got involved with organizations, nonprofit organizations that do mentoring work. I did some mentoring with Big Buddy, 100 Black Men, volunteers in public schools. And I did mentoring for years, right? Over 10 years mentoring in the community while working a full-time job and being a father. And I just got frustrated with the number of mentoring numbers started to go up. People would get excited, and I got frustrated. I'm like, mentor numbers should be going down, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing? And so I just went through a couple of situations where I just wasn't pleased. And so I've been a man of faith. I prayed, and I said, God, what is it? What are we doing? What are we missing to where, it has to be something better. And so he told me, say, well, look at yourself, and think about what would have helped you not make as many mistakes you made. And so for me, it was easy. Like if my father was involved, right? My father wasn't involved by his own choosing. My mom never talked bad about him. I'm like, never. She never talked bad about him. And so I was like, okay, wow, he wants to work with fathers. To me, that makes sense, right? Okay, cool. So I took that idea to different organizations. Nobody didn't want to do it. I tried again and kept getting frustrated. So I prayed, said, God, are you really talking to me? Because don't nobody want to do this. And I ain't doing it. I don't know anything about running the business or whatever. And besides, you don't see who I work for, So, and so he told me, said, nah, this is me talking to you. Yes, I gave you this idea. However, I didn't give you this idea to give to somebody else. I gave this to you for you. I'm like, wow. So after it, I still contemplated with it for a while. And I said, okay, if I'm going to do this, what am I going to do? So I say, when you think about it, as men, as fathers, the conversations we have are usually about women, politics, sports, women, sports, women, so on, right? So I say, and the only time we would actually probably talk about the kids is at the ball game, right? And so I was like, we need to have those father conversations. So what I started doing was having monthly fatherhood conversations. I would rent out spaces, and we would have conversations on topics such as the life of a single father, the life of a married father, talking to kids about health and hygiene, raising boys versus raising girls, all types of different topics that God was pouring into me. And I see them as pillars of fatherhood because they made a lot of sense, right? So I did that for several years. I have crowds anywhere from 3 to 10 to 0 to 5 to 3 to 0 to 0 to 12. And so I kept doing that over the years. COVID came. So I think I started in 2017. So started doing it in 2017. I did it for several years. I got invited to come and speak at father and daughter dances. So I started doing that. Took my daughter to one of the dances. Like, Dad, why don't we do our own dance? I was like, okay, you know what? I'll just do that with this organization that I started, Fathers on the Mission. So we started having an annual father and daughter dance.
Aww.
And then COVID came, so right? COVID came, so I did like everybody else and went virtual with it. So when we went virtual, we started having meetings once a week. And so we was having meetings, and topics was just like, man, dealing with stress and all types of things that was really making sense. And we would even have women on that chimed in about it, right? So I know it just took off from that point in 2022 or 2021. I had a conversation with DCFS through Makisha Judson and former Secretary Waters, and we ended up getting TANF funding where we was able to hire our first 2 employees. So that's the front end side of how we got started, to where we had our first office here, our main office, and our first employees in January of 2022, through something that God poured into me. And then right 4 months after we started, I transitioned from working for the plant to working for foam, something I didn't want to do. I was like, nah, that ain't for me to do, but God said otherwise. And so I transitioned to working for the organization, and it's been a journey ever since. So that's the beginning side of how we got into this world. And it just makes a lot of sense, right? Fatherhood education is so important.
Well, and I think it's important that women and men are different. Women have, more likelihood of conversation around motherhood and children.
Correct.
But so often men don't have a place to say, gosh, I don't know what to do with this problem with my son or my daughter. Or kind of like what you're doing tonight for those that are divorced, and how do they get access to be able to have a part in their child's life, and perhaps they've gone through a separation in the home. There's a lot of problems that come up in families, and we know that because families are hard work. But one of the things that I think is sad is that I've done a lot of ministry work, and you're in ministry work, and it's so hard. It's like pulling teeth to get any kind of support, and I don't just mean money. I mean, FaceTime with people, meetings, volunteers, people
Right.
to come serve at the events that you're doing. So what do you wish the community knew about what you were doing if someone wanted to maybe get involved? I mean, getting involved with you is helping our entire town, because it's families, it's dads, it's kids. What do you wish the community would know that you're doing so that people could get behind you? Because I think that's so important to be able to ask for.
Yeah, and that's great. And that's a huge point to make. We forever we focused on strengthening mothers, strengthening kids, right? But we've been missing the point of not going to the top of the families, the father, regardless if he's in the home or out the home. We enhance fathers, we strengthen families. Our numbers will do so much better. We have a better chance of success when we strengthen fathers, regardless if they're in the home or out the home. We have our weekly father classes, which we certify guys to facilitate. We have events like we have tonight, Q&A with DCFS, financial literacy. We have a treasure room back here where we have suits, clothing items from fathers and kids, different things that we do that requires different volunteer sets, resources to support the work that we're doing. Anybody that would like to get involved, you can definitely reach out to us at our office, at our main offices, 225-239-7833, or you can even go to our website where we have a tab on it where it says "Get involved." Get involved. Look, there you go. Right.
I forgot to put that up there. I'm like, oh, there it should be.
There it is, right there. You go to our website. You definitely take you to us. Get involved. You can get involved through volunteering, right? Volunteer your time, volunteer your knowledge. Especially those guys who are great fathers who have very good wisdom that they could share with other fathers. Hey, we all would love to have that conversation. We all would love to have someone there to share their experiences that have been successful, things that they've learned from, right? Or even in-kind donations. We have fatherhood meetings where we have to feed guys. You got to feed people. You want to educate them, put them.
You got to give people food.
We have workshops and events and things like that. Suits, guys, if you have too many suits that just don't fit anymore, or just, unfortunately, some people pass, we definitely take on suits because every man deserves to have a suit. And we tell guys, hey, take yourself out, take your kids off, take your spouse out. Come on over here and get a suit. We have suits over here where guys can get to obtain a suit. Also, we have a lot of donations from Walmart, new underwear for men and for children, household items. So any type of in-kind donations. And then also, any nonprofit organization needs a financial support, right? We have sponsorship packages for companies, for individuals. We actually going to have a nice fundraising event coming up next month. So we definitely, if you're interested in that, reach out to the office. We can definitely share information to you about the fundraising event that we're going to have coming up in the month of October. So these are various different ways that you can reach out to support the work that we're doing. But also, the biggest thing you do is spread the word. Spread the word to another person, because you never know. Even though if you can't do anything, by you spreading the word, hey, there's this organization called Fathers on Mission that's serving fathers and father figures to strengthen the families. It's going to make you huge, and you never know who ears that will receive it and may want to help us in a way that we desperately need in order to serve families. So the word of mouth, spreading our flyers, liking, sharing, even if it doesn't pertain to you, you could be the best father in the world, still share Fathers on the Mission flyer so that someone to see it, knowing someone that need our service or who want to support our services.
And I want to make sure that it's known that if there's a dad, a man that is like, I got a problem and I don't know what to do, they can call you, because if you can't do something directly to help them, you know where they can go. I mean, you have social services there. I met Karen, she was in the background. You have resources, and they're not just ideas. Right. They're real resources, like you said, suits and tangible goods for people. And so if someone is in a situation where they're like, man, I just don't know what to do, they can call you and you will help navigate that path to whatever it is they need, correct?
Yes. So we have our Project Family Bill, right? Social services and intervention. They call it wraparound services. It's social services and intervention. Project Family Bill, where we have licensed clinical social workers, social workers who do an intake process, because we want to find out what are your needs, what are your needs, and what are your family needs. It's a continuing your education, furthering your education. You need help finding employment. You need help sustaining employment. You need mental health services. You need some health services for your children, medical, dental, temporary transportation. You need some utility assistance. Whatever services or resources you need, we want to know, so that way we can either do it through our organization or through many organizations that here in our city or state. So again, by us enhancing the fathers, man, we can strengthen families. So many fathers commit suicide, run away from their issues because they just don't know what to do. Guys, let down their pride. Let us know. We serve any father, whether you're single, married, divorced, widowed. I don't care if you have 0 children or 30 children. We have some guys that come and they want to learn so that they can be the best father that they can be before they have children, which is always the best thing to do, right? Anytime we go and do something new, we want to learn about it before we jump into that water. But it's the same thing with fatherhood. We need to start learning before we jump into that water. Learn how to swim before you jump in that water and you drown, right?
Yeah.
But again, we have many services that we can definitely help the guys with. White, black, purple, pink, it doesn't matter, young or old. We there's no box. There's no, we don't help that father. Nope, we can't help that father. We serve any father who comes through our doors. I'll show you this one right quick. So in 2019, we had one of our fatherhood discussion sessions. What topic was being there, but being there. He gave me permission to share this. I'm going to share this. So Congressman Garrett Graves came to one of our meetings to check us out. And at the end of the meeting, he shared that it was great. He was glad that he really came, because he's only here 2 days out of the week for the most time. He's in Washington, D.C. And never his parents in Korea did he understand that he was there but not there, meaning he was in the vicinity of his children. But, he was doing, on the computer, doing a podcast, watching the news. But his kids could be on his lap, on the side of him, on the floor, etc. But he never did that, putting the distraction to the side and engaging with them, right? And that's huge. So I say to say, it doesn't matter if you're the president or if you're someone who's seeking support. We help all guys, and it's all something that you can either receive or even you can share to help the next father. So that's what we do here. We definitely enjoy it, and this definitely is a ministry and a mission that we're on.
Well, and I think it's also important, in women's circles, we talk about mom guilt. None of us ever feel worthy of, we all want to be a great parent, but, life happens and sometimes we're not. I think it's important to note that you're never too far away. You've never done so much wrong that you can't enter back into the kid's life. You've never made a mess big enough that you're not worthy of coming back in and having those steps and having help. Everybody deserves help.
Right.
And I think that it's important for people to not think, man, I'm too far gone. I've done too much wrong. That we all get to do U-turns. And God says, second chances, and, he can work everything out towards our good, but we got to turn in the right direction. And you take people, like you just said, you don't ask questions. You just start saying, let's get you back in the kid's life. Let's get you resources. Let's get you where you need to go. And I think that's critical because, nobody is beyond repair, right?
Right. It's huge. Next week, we have a graduation at a Central Parish Jail. We have guys went through a 16-week educational responsible fatherhood class. And I say these guys learn something that they never knew. They go through these classes, these educational classes, and that classes are more like discussions. But we have our objectives that we meet. And what's fascinating is that you hear guys say, man, I never knew that. Nobody never told me that. I didn't know. When we was doing classes 3 months last year in East Baton Rouge Parish Prison, we had one guy, it took him throughout the first 8 sessions, he was quiet. The 9th session, he raised his hand. He said he had a statement he wanted to make. We told him, go ahead. No, what you got? And this is what he did. And it took him it took him time to say it because it was just he had to let their pride down and say words he never said. He said, I want to do the best as a father. I just don't know what to do. Man, that was powerful. This guy forever has never been able to just say this. And he was able to share this with us. And we was able to share with him what he can do to get back in his child life to be the best father. Here, check this out. So this is what we told him. We said, we're definitely glad that you shared what you shared with us, right? And here are some things that you can do to help yourself to be the best dad that you can do, that you can be while you're still here incarcerated. So for once, you have to start believing in yourself. Believe that there is a greater line on the other side of what you were on, because what you were on is not where you're going now, because you took the point of admitting, I want to do something that I've never done because it's good for me and for my kids. So that's number one. You start believing in yourself. Look at yourself, say, I'm going to be the better father. Number two, make sure however you communicate with your child, whether it's through writing letters or phone calls, you continue to do it how you can and being consistent. If you haven't wrote letters, write letters. And you talk so positive about how much you miss your child and good job in that letter. And at the end of every phone call and every letter, you say, I love you. At the end of each one, that is what you say. And then once you are released, make sure you spend as much time as possible with your child. The parks are free. Every child loves a swing. The monkey boy, we don't have monkey boys anymore, but the park is free. So many things to do at the park. I said, you do those things. You keep in communication how you can by writing those letters. You tell them I love you, and you have belief, and you make strides, set goals to do things differently than what you did previously. And that's what it's all about. Showing guys something that they never have been told or taught. Because you can only do what you know. If you don't know any better,
right?
How can you do it?
Right. So we talked a little bit about this. There's a lot of people walking around wounded because they didn't have a dad in the home, and they may not know why they're wounded. I mean, I know I was wounded. You were wounded. I went back and got help for many bad decisions that I made, and I'm sure they were the result of, daddy issues, so to speak. But at least 1 in 4 kids grow up without a dad in the home, and probably more than that. Like in my case, there's 5 siblings with no dad. Right. So what do you say to someone who's carrying around that burden of hurt and that lost dream of the right family? What do you say to them to make amends with their past, whether it's a dad or a mom? Because the daddy issue affects the whole family. Right. What do you say to people that are carrying that around? Because, our world needs us to get out there and make the world a better place. And if we're carrying that around, how do we let go of that, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, great question. And the first thing to that is to seek help, right? And yeah. I say this, and I use that answer for a reason. A lot of times people will say something like that when they are given solutions on how to resolve a situation. Seek help, go get help. Well, I'm going to tell you how to seek that help. If you're a father, reach out to Fathers on a Mission or another fatherhood supporting organization that you may know of. and have those conversations. You have to let down the pride and start saying, hey, look, I'm dealing with X, Y, and Z. And I believe it's because, one, my father wasn't in my life. My mother was not in my life. So being able to talk about those situations with someone who's able to guide you in the right direction is something that you start off doing, be able to have those conversations, being willing to have that conversations. If the father, mother is still alive, approach them, set up a time to meet them and have that conversations and tell, what damaged you or how you feel. Be able to share how you're feeling with them if they're going to be receptive. Because I can tell you my father, I'll share this. I've never shared anyone. I've tried twice as an adult to have that conversation with my father, and the last time was maybe about 3 months ago, and he's not receptive. He wasn't receptive, and I wasn't going to fight him on it, right? So now I use what I learned through counseling to say, no, I tried. He didn't want to do it. I wash my hands, and that makes me feel a better person. And that's what we have to do. We have to be able to learn the process of healing through it, through a licensed social worker, through counseling, which again, we can help you with that, getting you matched up to a counselor, whether you have your own insurance, private insurance, Medicaid, or if we have the funds, we got fundings now, so we can definitely help you. So come see us. But being able to go and have those conversations with a therapist, and being honest with them, with your feelings and your emotions, and let them help you with coping mechanisms to get through those processes. Then again, like I said, chatting with that father, mother who was absent, who was not there, because you never know. It's two sides to a story. It's two sides to a story. So being able to go and get that other side from them, sharing how you feel, can make a huge difference in your life. The other part of it is doing your best to teach your children. Let them know how your life went, what you did, anything that you did that may have been wrong, but also showing them and educating them on how to do things differently. That was something that I do with my kids. Is I told them one thing: I want you to do things differently from how I did it. I want you to be better than Dad, and that is so important. Imagine all the families, all the broken homes that we have in our city and state. If parents were able to have a conversation with them, those parents in those broken homes have a conversation with their kids about, hey, this is the right way to do it so that your kids don't grow up in a broken home, right? Think about, how did you feel when there wasn't a mom and dad in the house? You don't want your kids to go through that. So whether it was through a relationship that never existed, or a quick relationship, or even a broken marriage, failed marriage, however, we still have to have those conversations and make sure that our kids know how to do things in the right way so they don't have to experience some of these traumas that some of us have experienced through whatever reason it may be, right? So that trauma is something that's really, really huge. And we definitely have to do our part to make sure that we don't put our kids through the same traumas that we've been through.
And I think it's important to accept the fact that most people come from, if it's not a broken home, it's a dysfunctional home, because families are messy, families are hard, and it looks a whole lot easier than it is. I say that from experience. And so to be able to say, hey, I'm walking wounded, I have some hurt, and I want to get some help for that, is so important, because you said something that I think is critical, is you got to do that for you. If your dad wasn't receptive, you still were the man enough to stand up to him and say, I would like to talk about that. And even if he didn't, you did your part, and you can let that go. It's that wishing I had, wonder shoulda, kind of thing that I think is important to be able to face it up, because, to feel good about who you are means doing those things that make you feel good about who you're becoming. And I think in a family situation, it's a constant pursuit of health, right? I mean, I think that's a really true thing. And so you've traveled to Atlanta and to some other places. Fatherhood is a whole, like you said before, there's medical conventions, there's AI conventions, there's all these things. There's fatherhood conventions. This is a big deal, and people need to know that there are resources and that you're tapped into that. What's it like when you go to those, and what do you learn to bring back to your ministry?
One of the greatest things that I've learned is that we're on the right track. We're on the right track, which of course, because how it's important to me. But when you see other people doing the work, right? This summer we went to a fatherhood conference in DC, and then also one in Atlanta. The one in Atlanta was super amazing because It was just amazing. But you see that there are other organizations that are doing the work. DC has strong fatherhood. Atlanta has strong fatherhood. Ohio has this. Now watch this. They have a Department of Children and Family Services, right? DCFS, but they also have the Commission on Fatherhood.
Wow.
The Commission on Fatherhood is just as strongly funded and resourceful as the DCFS.
Isn't that
something? A whole department that's a state department that provides resources for fathers. The state of Tennessee has a $7 million fatherhood budget. $7 million. So this is, here in Louisiana, we're behind the curve. It is what it is. Louisiana hasn't been a fatherhood state. It's an early childhood state. But one thing we have to realize that when it comes to early childhood, that early childhood comes from home, father and mother. So even though we're pouring into early childhood, we need to pour into the soil, into the roots of where that child is coming from. So then we start enhancing there. Now that fruit starts coming up to where we don't have 1,000,001 children that need to be mentored. We have less amounts, right? But we learn a lot at the conferences, right? That there are other organizations, the federal funding that's available, different workshops, breakout sessions, best practices. You see different tools and equipment, learning styles that are put out there, and you hear about what's going on throughout in programs in other states. What's phenomenal, I think, is the women that are involved, right? So they have one session was women in fatherhood, and that was amazing. Of the women who are strong believers in Fathers Matter. The executive director of the Commission on Fatherhood in Ohio Commission on Fatherhood, is a Black female who did majority of her time in child support enforcement. And this lady talked so strongly about the importance of fatherhood. It was amazing for someone who's divorced, and a Black female to still, and who worked majority of the time in child support, still talk so strongly about the need of fathers being active, right? Even though we're not together and we're at the child's game, there's no reason why I should be sitting here and you sitting there. Now our children have to do this here, but they can't even focus on the game. When they should only have to be able to just glance one area, see mom and dad, and now focus back on what the competition that they're in, right? But too many times we have mom and dad sitting on the different sides, and the child is doing this, and we think we're okay. No, we are traumatizing our child, right? So you learn some of those things and different practices that are being used, but also you become part of this national, different national brotherhood alliances on fatherhood. So that's one of the huge part of being able to reach out and find knowledge, wisdom from other guys who've been doing this way before I have. So I say one thing is that, it's been too long that fatherhood has not been a staple in the state of Louisiana.
Right.
20 years ago, this should have started. It didn't. The next best time is now. Let's get it started. Let's get it supported. I don't care if it's not about just fathers on the mission. I don't care if it's a different organization that's doing it. It's too much work for one organization. We need organizations that are going to be intentional about supporting fathers and father figures in our state, in the Gulf Coast. And then we'll start seeing some definite changes in our city and state. It shouldn't all be on the mothers. It shouldn't all be on the fathers. Yes, it should be more on fathers because we're men. However, we still have to start supporting fathers the way they need to be supported, enhancing them, and we'll start making some changes in what we see in our city and state.
Okay, last question, and then we'll close out with all the things that people can do to help you. But what about the kids? So kids are so quick to, if you go back and you say, hey, I haven't maybe been here all this time, but let's start over. Like you said, been at the game and having, we're traumatizing our kids. One way to untraumatize our kids is to go back and say, hey, I might not have done it right then, but I'm going to start now. Let's work together. How receptive have you found kids to be in dealing with the dads to accepting that, hey, we didn't get a lot of things right, but we're going to start and we're going to do it now?
I know I didn't share this with you, but it seems like you've been digging in my backyard. So I have my 17-year-old son also lives with me now, and his mom alienated him for 15 years. The city of Baton Rouge 15 years ago did not support me in dealing with my son. I'm not going to even say the judge's name. 3 months ago, he came to me and we had a conversation, and I told him everything from A to Z. He said, well, Dad, that's a different perspective from what I was told. And I also put out everything that I had documentation for. They said, how they said, keep the receipts. I showed the receipts. And I ain't talking about receipts of paying for stuff, but the information, the documentation of what was done, et cetera, et cetera. He called his mom and says, Mom, I'm not coming back. He didn't go back. He's been with me ever since. He's 17, but he's not 17, meaning it's a lot of things that he missed out on. Mm-hmm. And I have to be patient enough to understand that, and also slowly start applying some of these knowledge and lessons to him, these learnings to him, So I say to say it's a process, but it's not something that I'm just going to let back off. It's a process of getting to know each other, doing things together, me also realizing that, okay, yes, I'm taking up this time for this child. Now I got to take out more time away from this child. So I have to still continue to shift that work-family balance. You got to shift that work-family balance, and that's what I've been doing. And that's what it's all about, right? Guys have to understand that, yes, even if you haven't been in your child's life, whether it's through alienation or it's because you ran away from it, you can come back from both sides of it, but you have to make that shift and be patient and work the process. Those are things that we work with here at Fathers on a Mission. It can be done. I'm a living witness right now that it can be done. And at the end, it's phenomenal. It's beautiful. Because Javar is gonna let you know, man, he loves his dad. He loves being here, and he's definitely out gaining the things that he missed out on in life.
Yeah. So kudos to you, because think of what all you've done, and you've put together the resources. I mean, that wasn't easy what you've done. You've been swimming upstream like that is some serious hard work. So, I mean, I'm so happy to know that you've done what you've done, and you've got all those resources in place. And you need funding. You need people to donate. I mean, it could be $10, it could be $100. People can give money to you for direct impact into our communities and into families, because you've got the resources to help people with tangible things. You're not just saying, "Oh, hoorah, go do better." You're saying, right, here's what you need to do better, and then you're helping. You need volunteers. You need people to show up and come teach what maybe they know. A businessman, come talk about their business, and give men visions on business and purpose, and value them and teach them that they're worth whoever's time to come in and pour into these men that are trying to make a step in the right direction, and have you come speak.
Yes.
You can go speak on the topic. This is a big, big topic, and people want to know, what do we do about our families? The families are breaking down. Well, it is true, but there are many people out there that are doing their part to reverse that trend, and you're one of those people. So we'll make sure that, I mean, obviously we're posting this interview, and we'll keep in touch with you, and you and I are going to keep in touch and do things together. So I'm just happy that you're doing what you're doing. I'm just, keep it up, keep doing what you're doing, and we'll call attention to you and what you're doing, and hopefully we'll get you some hands and some feet and some checkbooks and some support, because you need it.
Write a check.
That's it.
I tell them, come see. They say, is a saying, well, you really want to find out? Come taste to see. Come see what we're doing up here at Foam. So we're here. We have our main office at 1120 Government Street. We have our satellite office that we opened back in January, thanks to the Hugh and Angelina Wilson Foundation, at 3255 Choctaw, in the area where I actually grew up. So we're taking this. We want to duplicate this process throughout the state. So we got to support fathers. That's going to ultimately strengthen families, and this is what is going to increase the outcome, the positive outcomes of our kids. We're going to increase the positive outcome of kids by enhancing fathers, and we strengthen families. That's how we got to do it.
And that makes people have a sense of purpose and a reason to get up every day, because if you know what you're doing is the right thing for the right reasons, then that's a really great that's a great, strong sense of self. And I think that's what you're doing is you're reminding people that you have value and what you need to contribute is valuable and can change lives. And so,
Definitely.
well, thank you so much. I'm so glad I got to meet you, and I'm so glad I got to come see. And we're going to keep this conversation going. And you go have a great event tonight. I'm sure you will. And tell Karen hello, and we'll talk soon.
Definitely appreciate it, Beth.
Okay, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.